and welcome to Network. My name is Spumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. We hope you still are staying at home and keeping it safe where you are and leaving if you really have to. This despite South Africa's alert level change in our lockdown. It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. This week, our Twitter poll is asking you if you believe in local ownership or part local ownership of ICT startups. This as Kenya has said that foreign company owners in ICT need to give up 30% to locals. Results of that are coming up later in the program. Firstly, here's what's coming up tonight. We look at education as we go down another notch in our alert levels in our lockdown and whether remote learning worked really well for university students. We meet a woman in the drones industry. And in our discussion, producer Sandile Hlangani has a conversation about the Google Startup Accelerator program. There's been a data breach of personal information of millions of South Africans in the banking sector. Here's how it happened.
What's really dangerous about this breach, more than anything else, is that what hackers, actual hackers and actual thieves of people's money rather than just data, because there are lots of people who just steal data, not money. But the people who want to steal your money or impersonate you or steal your identity, the more pieces of personal information, verifiable personal information they have, the more likely it is that they can work out how to break into your email account or open a credit card in your name or marry you, so that they can have citizenship. So those are really the sort of identity fraud type stuff. Also, phishing emails, the emails which try to get you to reveal your detail, your password, etc., are much easier to craft when you know about a person. You know their age, maybe an estimate on their income, where they live. If you think about what secret questions you're often asked to provide when you sign up for an account, it's often things that a credit bureau would know.
Banks now say scrutinize everyone who is calling you, asking you for some of your personal information. They could be impersonating your bank. And over to the education sector now. A couple of months ago, we went to the rural areas where some students were struggling with data connectivity and sometimes didn't even have electricity. So what's the case now as we have reached level 2 of South Africa's lockdown? Some want to be back at university. When we first met Spelele Nzuza, he was in his rural village of Ndabayake near Empangeni on the KwaZulu-Natal North Coast. University had just been abruptly shut down before South Africa's COVID-19 lockdown. He had issues with internet costs and constant power cuts, blocking him from doing his university work.
Ugesi asinawo uyahamba ugesi njengoba kuyi lockdown nje thina sisenkingeni asiqhubeke nezifundo zethu ama laptop awana battery cisha ngisho amafoni.
When the Durban University of Technology said third year and fourth year students could return to campus, he quickly packed things and returned to the city.
Not all of us as in our phones are right, so some of us couldn't log go DUT library because of us seven summer phone are advanced ngendlela efanayo.
University of KwaZulu-Natal postgraduate student Nonduduzo Gumede also rushed back to campus.
At some point, my data had to be cut because of the zone that my area is in, and there was not much connectivity. It was called the Telkom Roma area, so they couldn't distribute into such areas. So I ended up not being able to get data for like a month or two. So I had to come back to the institution to be able to continue with my studies.
We meet Snentlantla Masibuko. The first year Wits University student hadn't been in Johannesburg for a long time when he was told he too had to pack for home. He had not used a computer at home in Loskop and definitely not as the primary tool for his education before level 5 of South Africa's lockdown.
Lecturers bayakwazi ukuthi basithumelele ama-MP4 videos la akwazi ukubachaza khona ama-notes and they send out ama-notes, ama-PDFs la ukwazi ukuthi ufunde khona, and you can take ama-quizzes and ama-tutorials just to practice for ama-test ozowenza futhi nawo online. We have like a community library, so they have ama-computers la sikwazi ukuthi senze khona, but really you have to use it for the whole community, so you can't spend a lot of time ukuthi usebenzise yona. So when I got to Joburg, where like konke nje technology and stuff, so I had to adapt to the stage dynamic funding ngikwazi ukufundisa, and it took me time to get used to it.
Educationist and app developer Mfundo Dzanibe says a lot needs to be done to solve the digital divide and exposure in higher education.
In the rural areas, we still don't have the network that is required or the quality of the network that is required. So we have to think about how do we get the network providers to provide us with better networks. So all of that is government. Government has to come to the party and say, our future is digital education. We heard the president when he was talking early in the year, in the address, indicating that we are going digital in education. So we need a follow-up on that. We should not allow COVID-19 to derail that. Instead, we should allow it to fast-track it, because it is shown us that we need that for the future.
Students say they prefer campus and not being away.
It is very difficult for us to study at home, because some of us need to have contact classes so we can understand some of the topics very well.
Now that I'm back on campus, doing work is much easier. I'm able to do work up until the late hours of the night. I don't have to worry about whether I'm going to have enough data to do the work or not, whether it's going to get depleted.
But Dzanibe says they wouldn't mind being away so much if the tech tools being introduced currently are used as well when they have campus access.
Digital education is the future. I mean, if we do not do something now, we're going to continue to struggle. Already, we've got a lot of students that are not accepted in institutions because the space is, there's no space for them. So we have to start to think to say, how many problems other than the current problem are we solving with the digital?
Polity.org says without adequate internet access, students face exclusion from opportunities for learning, research, and employment. It is still Women's Month, and this week we are meeting a woman who is in the drones industry.
My name is Makazi Madi. By profession, I'm a drone pilot. But started my license, or my drone license, 2017 when I got employed by a company called Rocket Mine. Initially was a commercial, or I'm a qualified commercial pilot. So what attracted me to the industry is that I absolutely love the aviation industry. And basically with that, wasn't able to find a bit of employment with the commercial license, but still wanted to remain within the aviation industry. So currently I'm specializing in the survey and mapping, mainly on the mining industry. There's quite a number of mines which I'm operating on myself, which I'm operating on. Majority of them are based in Mpumalanga. There's various uses for drones. I think people normally think of the videoing, taking photos, but there's various uses for actual drones. Company I'm actually in, they do quite a lot of surveying, survey mapping, so they'll use photogrammetry to actually collect data via drones. And then there's also the agriculture side, where they do quite a lot of plant stress analysis, soil analysis, just by utilizing drones and having sensors on those specific drones. And then you also get the engineering side. So what we did a bit earlier was do a bit of an inspection of a tree, so we could take that as an example of a tower, and we'd literally just fly a drone and do inspections of that actual tower. And then you've also got various obstacles which you need to go into and use an actual drone where humans can't actually get there. So those are the type of uses we find with drones. So within that space, do quite a lot of survey mapping work. So surveyors would use or ask us to fly specific stockpiles, the actual pit, for counting and produce analysis. But there are various other departments which actually use our data as well. So we found that quite a lot of geologists actually are interested in our data, as they're able to use our rock analysis. They're able to use our drones for rock analysis. The engineers, rock engineers, use our data quite a lot, because especially with blasting profiles, or when specific material has been blasted, we do quite a bit of analysis where we fly the drone pretty close to that area or that muck pile, and it's been deemed not safe for humans to actually walk on, because we don't know if all the explosives have detonated and so forth. So we actually do quite a lot of work within the actual full mining industry. Various industries within South Africa are looking into adapting into using drones or utilizing drones. I mean, if you had to tell some of the mining guys that drones would really be as influential as they are right now, they wouldn't believe you. So I really think there's a great future within drones. However, it comes with a very big responsibility of people need to take caution or pay caution to what they're actually using the specific drones for. If you are interested in obtaining an RPL, I think my advice would be investigating a couple of schools within your actual area, and they'll then be able to guide you pretty well. But your first point of contact would be contacting the Civil Aviation Authority. They've got quite a lot of information on that specific website with regards to drone licenses, the types of drones there are, and the various uses which they've classified. It's been tough. It's a very big male-dominated industry, but I must say, where I've been, or let me say, adapting between aviation and the mining industry, there's quite a lot of accommodation, and women are making very big leaps and bounds within both industries. So I would say it's been tough. Initially, when I started, it was very tough, because it's convincing quite a lot of people that you can hold your own. But thereafter, your work ethic counts more than anything else besides gender.
Robots have played a critical role in the healthcare sector in some parts of the world. Right now, let's go to Rwanda to find out how they do some tasks that would otherwise be a bit more risky for healthcare workers.
Hello, good morning. I am here to take your temperature.
This is no ordinary doctor. At the Kanyenya COVID-19 treatment facility near Kigali in Rwanda, they have deployed these robots to assist human staff in hospitals. These have been donated by the United Nations Development Program.
Let's say before we had them, we would visit between 2 to 3 or 4 times a day per patient. But now at least we now up to 2 times a day. So that tells you how helpful they are and what impact they have made in terms of reducing the number of visits to the patient.
Akazuba, Ikizere, and Ngabo are frontline workers here. They work with some of the most critical patients at times, thus limiting the possibility of further spreading COVID-19.
They help us to decrease or reduce the risk of transmission. That means from patients to staff. So what they do like 50% of the technical work.
Some of the robot's tasks is to take temperature readings, monitor patients, and deliver video messages between healthcare workers and patients. They can be made to do more.
If you program them, they can take a tray to a patient. With the products you want to bring to the patients, they can bring them. But for now, we are using them for those tasks.
They have been developed by Belgian firm Zora. Rwanda is also using drones to send blood samples that need to be tested in other regions.
May you please move a bit closer to me? Hello.
It is a SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. After the break, we have a conversation with Google as producer Sandile Hlangane chats about their Startup Accelerator program.
The Bugasha family forms part of over 400 families who are still awaiting the receipt of their complete homes. This despite claims by the Metro that they've handed over 600 units.
All I'm longing for is for this house to be finished. I have no hope as I don't have a child who's working.
We had hoped that these houses would have been complete by now so that people can be safe.
What we've done now is to go back onto the tendering system so that we can re-award the project. We're very much understanding of the frustration of the people of Pilton.
We have opted to go to the media because we are not getting answers from the authorities.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Welcome back. Here's producer Sandile Hlangani now having a conversation about what the Google Startup Accelerator program is all about.
Thank you so much, Onajite, for making time to join us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Can you introduce us to the Google Accelerator program? What are its main objectives?
Okay, thank you very much. So the Google for Startups Accelerator Africa program, which used to be called Launchpad Accelerator, was announced in 2017 by our CEO, Sundar Pichai, and it represents a $3 million commitment to supporting the startup ecosystem on the continent. Now, Google for Startups Accelerator Africa is our program to support tech startups across Africa by providing them with proprietary training, access to our network of internal and external mentors, as well as Google's technology and processes. And the program is sector agnostic, so we support startups from a wide range of vertical sectors within technology, ranging from education, agriculture, fintech, and more. It's a 3-month program that's designed around 3 one-week-long boot camps, or high touch points as we call them. And the startups receive intensive training in technology and business, as well as one-on-one coaching from expert mentors from our network during these boot camp weeks. And in between the boot camps, startups are supported by success managers from Google to work on milestones and to facilitate introductions to additional mentors and Google teams that would be beneficial to their product development.
You mentioned the fact that for the first time this year, you are taking the program online. How is it going to be different from the physical one?
Yeah, so we've actually started running the program. We've just completed our first 1-week boot camp on Friday. So for the physical program, what we did was we flew in all the participants, so all the mentors, all the startup founders to our developer space in Lagos, and that's where we ran the program for the first week. In the second week, we flew them to a second country as part of an immersion into another tech ecosystem, another tech and startup ecosystem. And we've been to Kenya, we've been to South Africa and Johannesburg, we've also been to Rwanda. So this time around, obviously with the travel restrictions, we're not able to do that, but we're trying to, achieve a similar, immersive experience, focusing on a lot of networking opportunities and that, keeping those mentorship relationships alive, doing all of that online.
How important do you think startups are to Africa's socio-economic development?
Right. I think startups have a most critical role to play in Africa's socio-economic development. Startups bring ideas and ingenuity to solving existing and new challenges, faced by over 1.2 billion people on this continent. And while some might fail in the first few attempts, those that succeed go even further by creating employment opportunities, creating revenue, and improving the lives of their users, and the community as a whole. And, for those that don't succeed, they have the lessons and they have, they build a strong community to be able to try again. And I think over the last, 4 to 6 years, we've really seen an increase appreciation in the role that SMEs play in shaping the narrative of Africa, but also in shaping our economy and driving our economy. And Africans have, we've always been industrious as Africans, but now, we're truly appreciating that, we have the ideas, we have the skills to create the much needed innovations that are, culturally and regionally relevant for us.
So is Google looking to expand the program and support more African startups in the future?
Yes, so this is actually our biggest class yet, with 20 startups that we selected for this cohort, unlike just 10 to 12 in previous iterations. And we're leveraging technology, and so far it is paying off. So we definitely see the opportunity in this, and we would love to continue to support startups, in this same way. And we're also keen to expand our support of startups through our network of partners, so accelerators and hubs on the continent who have built communities and done incredibly work on the continent with startups. The likes of CC Hub in Lagos, Greenhouse Labs Accelerator, iHub in Kenya, and many more.
So are you optimistic about the future role such companies can have in shaping the future of the African continent?
Yes, I would say that we are fully optimistic about the role that startups are playing in helping Africa to leapfrog. And, we're privileged with the accelerator to have worked with some of the most progressive and innovative companies across the continent. For example, we have OK High, which gives off-map rural dwellers access to a home address. And this is also supporting the drive for financial inclusion, because they're able to connect these people to finance and an array of services that they wouldn't otherwise without having a physical, known address.
Just lastly, in the beginning, you mentioned the fact that this is a 3-month program. I would like to find out what kind of support are you going to give these startup companies after the program?
Yes, so like I mentioned earlier, once they graduate, they join our Pan-African Alumni Network, and what we try to do is facilitate some ongoing support from Google teams, where they find that they need, access to certain products or access to certain technologies. We also try to connect them with ongoing opportunities, potential, for investment opportunities with our network of VCs, investors that we've made connections with. We also try to facilitate, we give them access to Google Cloud credits if they need support. We, make those introductions with teams within Google.
Onajite, thank you so much for making time to join us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
That was Onajite, head of Google for Startup Accelerator Program. We are taking a short break.
De Doorns was 'n rustige area toe ek nog 'n kind was. Manne wat saam met my groot geraak het in dwelms verval. Ek is na in buis, ek het die pad gekies wat vir my veiliger is en dis om rugby te speel. Ek speel hier vir die local club, the Doorns United. SABC het my lewe baie verander as kind. Hoe meer rugby gekyk het op TV, hoe beter het ek geword. So dit my geleer wat 'n mens ek moet wees. Deur SABC 2 wat dit moontlik gemaak het.
Coming up on Expressions, we tackle the issue of gender-based violence head-on. We provide you with a rare opportunity of engaging directly with the Minister of Police through a question and answering session. You can call in or send us messages on Facebook or WhatsApp.
Amapoyisa, we are trying to teach them, educate them, and train them how to deal with the issues of gender-based violence.
Don't miss the special episode of Expressions on Monday, the 24th of August from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on SABC News Channel.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back. Here's what else took place in the rest of the world in the technology space.
Trial biker Andrian G showed off his expertise on speed and precision, performing trick stunts on his trusty two wheels through the Technik Museum, a technology museum in Germany. From front wheels to carefully maneuvering his way through the corridors of historical exhibit and performing a backflip on the wing of a plane, the 27-year-old German even honed in on his trust the game mentality and with pinpoint accuracy hopped over the museum guard played by MotoGP rider Stefan Brat. In the US, Uber Technologies will be forced to shut down its ride-hailing operations in California if a court ruling that blocks it from classifying its drivers as independent contractors goes into effect. This week, a California judge granted the state's request for a preliminary injunction blocking Uber and Driver Lyft from classifying their drivers as independent contractors rather than employees. Hundreds of thousands gig workers, including many at ride-hailing companies and app-based food delivery services, are affected by the law known as Assembly Bill 5, which took effect on January this year. The shutdown would irreparably harm Uber and the people who rely on its rides operation to generate income. Still in the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that by signing a 5G declaration this week, Slovenia has secured protection against authoritarian threats, including China's efforts to control people and information.
The contrast between free and unfree society has never been clearer, and free nations must work together to confront authoritarian threats. Slovenia has remarkably supported EU sanctions against Russia because it is concerned about its malign activity against Ukraine. But of course, we face a number of other threats as well.
Last month, Telkom Slovenia began to roll out its 5G network and expects to have 1/3 of the country covered by the end of the year. Mike visited Slovenia as part of a European tour this week.
Kenya is often praised for an environment that allows people to found ICT startups. But a Forbes report says there are more foreign startup founders in Kenya than local women. So they've come up with a new law that says foreign owners or founders of startups must give up 30% ownership to locals. We are asking you if you agree with this, and if there should be local ownership of startups, especially in the ICT sector. Now, 57% of you, that's an overwhelming majority, say yes, you think so. 30% of you say no, investors will run away. And there is 13% of you that is in the minority. Those people say they don't really have an opinion on this. It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit network at sabc.co.za on email. For me, Siphumelele Zondi and the rest of the network team, stay home and stay safe. Have a good one. Good night.
Did you know there is a valid